The stars burned cold above the shattered husk of New Shanghai when the first transmission came through every surviving comes array on Earth. No fanfare, no declaration of war, just a single calm voice in flawless Mandarin, English, Arabic, Spanish, all at once, layered like a choir of ghosts. Humanity, it said, your species has been weighed. You are found wanting. Surrender your worlds, your bodies, your minds. Resistance will be inefficient. The message looped for 17 hours straight before anyone could jam it. By then, half the planet had heard it. The other half was already dead. Captain Elias Kane stood on the observation deck of the last orbital fortress humanity still controlled. The Elysium-S scarred hull groaning under emergency thrust as kinetic rounds from the Xenofleet hammered the outer rings. He was 34, looked 50, had lost his left eye to shrapnel during the initial landings 3 years earlier. The prosthetic glowed dull red in the emergency lighting. Around him, the bridge crew moved with the quiet fury of people who knew the odds but refused to accept them. Lieutenant Aisha Rahman comes officer, kept rerouting signals through dying satellites, her fingers bleeding from cracked nails. Sergeant Malik Torres, security chief, checked charge packs on his rail rifle for the third time in 10 minutes. They were all that remained of the United Earth Defense Command upper echelon. Everyone else had either burned on the surface or been harvested. The aliens called themselves the Ascended Concord. Tall, bioluminescent beings wrapped in living crystal armor, they moved like liquid light. Their ships were grown, not built organic curves that pulsed with inner fire, weapons that tore reality itself. They had arrived without warning in 2047, slipping through a wormhole that opened above the Pacific like a wound in the sky. No demands at first, just collection. Entire cities emptied overnight. People simply vanished. Later, intelligence revealed the truth. The Concord didn't conquer, they refined. Humanity was raw material, nervous systems particularly prized for integration into their neural matrices. Billions became components. The rest were left to scrabble in the ruins. Branded husks, useless biomass, too stubborn or too broken to harvest cleanly. Elias remembered the day the first harvest ships descended over Lagos. He had been there on relief detail. 22 years old, still believing in blue helmets and peacekeeping. The sky turned violet as the collectors descended towering tripods of bone and crystal that sang a single, unending note. The sound got inside your skull. People walked toward it willingly at first, mesmerized. Then the screaming started when the first spines punched through spines and began uploading. Elias had dragged a child out of the crowd, a girl no older than 8, her eyes already glazing. He carried her 3 kilometers through panic and plasma fire before a Concord drone found them. It pinned him with a gravitic field, lifted the girl like a doll, and fed her into its ventral maw. The last thing she said was his name. He still heard it sometimes when the station's recyclers hummed at night. That was the moment something in him shifted. Not rage, not yet. Cold, surgical certainty. If the universe had decided humans were disposable, then humans would have to disagree. Violently. 3 years later, the Husks had learned to fight dirty. They scavenged Concord wreckage for biotech, reverse-engineered neural inhibitors from captured drones, turned abandoned megacities into fortresses of razor wire and jury-rigged railguns. They called themselves the Reclaimers, now not soldiers, not rebels, just people who refused to be spare parts. Elias had risen through blood and necessity, not rank. He led because no one else would, because every other commander had either surrendered or died screaming for mercy that never came. The Elysium shook again, another hit to the dorsal armor. Warning, klaxons wailed. Aisha's voice cut through the noise. Captain, incoming transmission. It's them. Direct beam. They want to talk. Elias straightened. Put it on main holla. The alien appeared life-size, projected in shimmering blue. It was beautiful in the way deep-sea predators are beautiful: long limbs, luminous skin, eyes like fractured opals. No mouth speech came from somewhere inside its torso, vibrating the air. Human Kane, it intoned. You persist. This is unexpected. Your biomass inefficiency is remarkable. Yet persistence without purpose is merely prolonged decay. We offer final terms. Surrender the remaining population centers. Integrate willingly. Your neural patterns will be preserved in the Great Lattice. You will know unity. You will know peace. Elias laughed a short, ugly sound. Peace? You mean erasure? You want to turn us into background noise in your machine? I've seen what you call unity. It's a graveyard with better lighting. The alien tilted its head, a gesture almost curious. You misunderstand. Resistance is entropy. We bring order. Your species is chaotic, violent, self-destructive. We correct such flaws. Flaws. Elias stepped closer to the hala, close enough that his breath fogged the projection. We invented jazz, nuclear fusion, spite, love, regret, bad poetry, worse decisions, and the stubborn refusal to die when everything says we should. That's not a flaw. That's the feature. You want order? Fine, come take it. But you'll have to go through me first. And I'm not planning on making it easy. Silence stretched. Then, the alien's luminescence pulsed once amusement contempt. Hard to tell with something that didn't have a face. Very well. Your defiance is noted. The harvest will resume. Your fortress will fall within 3 cycles. Your name will be remembered only as a brief anomaly in the lattice. The hollow winked out. Elias turned to his crew. They were watching him, waiting, not for orders, for permission to keep hoping. He met Aisha's eyes. How long until their next wave hits? 47 minutes, she said quietly. Malik cracked his knuckles. Plenty of time to reload. Elias nodded once. Then let's remind them why husks make terrible kindling. Outside the viewports, the Concord fleet formed up hundreds of living vessels, their hulls glowing like veins of magma. Below them, Earth turned slowly, scarred and dark, cities reduced to glowing craters, but here and there, pinpricks of light still burned. Human lights, stubborn, defiant. Elias placed his hand on the bulkhead. The metal was cold. He thought of the girl in Lagos, thought of every face he'd buried, every name he'd carved into the walls of forgotten bunkers, thought of the message still looping somewhere in the void. You are found wanting. He smiled in. Dangerous. Not anymore, he whispered. And somewhere deep in the ruins of humanity, in hidden bunkers and orbital scrapyards, and the blackened hearts of fallen megacities, a signal began to spread. Not a broadcast, not a plea, a promise. The husks were waking up, and they were angry. But the real spark ignited far below, in a derelict subway tunnel beneath what used to be Beijing, where a young engineer named Lin Wei had just cracked the final encryption on a captured Concord neural core. Her hands shook as the device hummed to life, spilling alien data across salvaged screens. Lines of code no human was ever meant to read, yet she read them anyway. And what she found there wasn't just technology, it was vulnerability. A single exploitable weakness in the heart of their perfect order. She hit record on her battered comms unit. To anyone still breathing, she said, voice steady despite the tears cutting tracks through the ash on her face. They aren't gods. They're machines wearing skin. And machines can break. She uploaded the data burst on every frequency she could reach open, unencrypted, screaming into the dark. Within minutes, the signal bounced from ruined tower to ruined tower, from hidden reclaimer cells to lone survivors clutching rifles in the snow. Elias felt it hit the Elysium's receivers like a thunderclap. His prosthetic eye flared as decryption routines spun up. He read the header. Then he read it again. A slow, feral grin split his face. Aisha, he said, patch me station-wide, and open a channel to the surface relays. She didn't question it. The crew watched as Elias stepped to the center of the bridge. This is Captain Elias Kane. Reclaimers the Concord just made their last mistake. They've got a crack in their armor, and we've got the hammer. Every cell, every fighter, every husk still drawing breath lease and close. The reversal starts now. We don't ask for mercy. We don't beg for peace. We take back what's ours. One world, one life. One bloody inch at a time. He paused, letting the silence carry the weight. If you're hearing this, you're not alone. If you're still fighting, you're not forgotten. And if they come for you tonight, make them remember why humanity was never meant to be harvested. The channel cut on Earth. In the dark, thousands of voices answered not with words, but with action. Engines coughed to life. Railguns charged. Knives were sharpened on broken concrete. And high above, Elias Kane looked out at the approaching fleet and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Sharp. Dangerous. Human. The reversal. War had begun. In the dim glow of the Elysium's war room, Elias Kane stared at the holographic display flickering with Lin Wei's data burst. The alien neural code unraveling like a Gordian knot sliced by human spite. His fingers traced the edges of a faded hollow photo projected from his wrist. Implant a woman with sun-kissed hair and a boy. Maybe 10. Both laughing under a pre-invasion sky in Montana. Sarah and Jacob, gone now, harvested in the first wave over North America. He'd been off-world then, commanding a lunar mining outpost, too far to save them. The guilt gnawed at him like vacuum frostbite, a constant ache that fueled every decision. Not rage anymore, but a deeper fire. The refusal to let their erasure define him. Captain Aisha Rahman's voice pulled him back, her eyes shadowed by the hijab she wore like armor. A remnant from her days as a Cairo astrophysicist before the skies fell. The data's solid. Their lattice relies on synchronized quantum entanglement, disrupt one node, and the cascade failure could cripple a fleet. She hesitated, glancing at Malik Torres, who leaned against a console, his massive frame belying the trimmer in his hands. Malik had lost his entire squad in the Sydney drops, including his brother, vaporized in a Concord plasma bloom. They all carried ghosts, But Malik's manifested in quiet breakdowns, fists clenched against the panic attacks that hit when the alarms blared. Elias nodded, forcing a steady tone. Good work. But this isn't just tech, it's us proving we're more than husks. The word hung heavy, a slur that aliens had branded them with, but humanity had reclaimed it, twisting it into a badge of defiance. Down on Earth in the scorched remnants of Beijing's Undercity, Lin Wei wiped sweat from her brow, her lab coat torn and stained with hydraulic fluid from the salvaged Concord core. She was 28, a prodigy who'd once dreamed of terraforming Mars, not cracking alien minds. Her motivation wasn't abstract survival. It was her grandmother's stories of the Cultural Revolution, tales of enduring against impossible odds. Humans bend, but we don't break, the old woman had said, her voice frail in the hospice pod before the invasions. Lin had held her hand as the harvesters descended, promising to fight. Now, that promise echoed in every line of code she decrypted. But doubt crept in. Was this ingenuity or desperation? She'd seen friends integrate willingly, their eyes glazing over with false bliss as the lattice absorbed them. What if resistance only prolonged the suffering? She shook it off, transmitting coordinates for the first strike, a Concord relay station orbiting Mars, a weak link in their interstellar web. Back on Elysium, the crew gathered for the briefing, a ragtag family forged in fire. Aisha and Malik shared a glance, unspoken tension simmering. They'd been lovers once, before the war turned intimacy into liability. Aisha had ended it after a raid gone wrong, blaming herself for distracting him. We can't afford hearts, she'd said, but Malik still watched her back, his loyalty a silent anchor. Elias sensed it, the human messiances that the aliens dismissed as chaos. The Concord viewed emotions as inefficiencies, but Elias knew better. They were the spark that ignited innovation. Like the jury-rigged disruptor they were building from scavenged parts, a human twist on alien tech, powered by salvaged fusion cells and sheer audacity. As the station shuddered from distant impacts, Elias revealed more of his past, not for pity, but to bind them. I wasn't always this, he said, gesturing to his scarred face. Grew up on a ranch, learned to fix tractors before I could drive, joined the military because Sarah pushed me. Said I had a hero complex. She was right, but heroes don't save everyone. His voice cracked raw with memory. The betrayal stung deepest. Humanity's downfall hadn't been just invasion. It was internal. Early on, some leaders had collaborated, trading populations for promises of ascension. The UN Security Council had fragmented, with figures like President Harlan selling out coastal cities for personal integration. Elias had executed one such traitor himself, a former admiral who'd handed over orbital defenses. The act haunted him, moral conflict twisting like a knife. Was he any better than the aliens, deciding who lived? Yet it had bought time, allowed pockets of resistance to form. On the surface, reclaimer cells multiplied, human resilience shining in unlikely ways. In the flooded ruins of Miami, a group of engineers, led by Dr. Sofia Ramirez, repurposed submersibles into stealth drones, infusing them with AI subroutines that mimicked human unpredictability, dodging patterns the Concord's predictive algorithms couldn't anticipate. Sofia's drive came from her daughter, lost to a harvest but whose neural echo she'd preserved in a black market implant. She's still with me, Sophia whispered during ops, the implant feeding her flashes of memory, birthday cakes, ocean waves. It was personal, this war, not galaxies at stake, but individual souls. Internal conflicts bubbled. Some reclaimers argued for negotiation, weary of the toll. What if we integrate on our terms? One veteran muttered in a bunker. Halamidi Elias shut it down, but the seed lingered. He wrestled with it nights, staring at Sarah's photo. Betrayal by one's own kind cut deeper than alien spines. Meanwhile, the Concord evolved. Their AI overlords, vast intelligences woven from harvested minds adapting to human guerrilla tactics. One such overlord, designated Nexus 7, pondered the anomaly. These husks exhibit irrational persistence. It broadcasts to the fleet. Their emotional anchors create unpredictable vectors. But Nexus 7 underestimated the depth. Human motivations weren't flaws, they were weapons. In a daring raid on the Mars relay, Elias led a strike team aboard a captured shuttle, cloaked in scavenged stealth fields. Aisha piloted, her hands steady, despite the fear coiling in her gut, memories of her family's mosque in flames. Her brother's last transmission begging for evac. Malik covered rear, his rail rifle barking at crystalline drones. They breached the core, Lin's code uploading like venom. Alarms screamed as entanglement collapsed, ships winking out in chain reactions. But victory came at cost. Malik took a spine to the shoulder, neural toxin flooding his system. Aisha dragged him back, tears mixing with sweat. Don't you dare, she hissed. injecting counter-serum from their med. Elias covered them, his mind flashing to Jacob's laugh. This was why they fought not for abstracts like freedom, but for the right to grieve, love, As they escaped, the relay imploded in a silent bloom, debris scattering like cosmic confetti. Word spread, first blood in the reversal. But Elias knew that Concord would retaliate harder, probing for weaknesses in human unity. In quiet moments, he confided in Aisha, "What if we're just delaying the inevitable? What if my decisions get you all harvested?" She touched his arm, a rare gesture. "Then we go down human, messy, defiant, real." Her words anchored him, a reminder that relationships weren't liabilities, they were the core of resistance. Down below, Lin Wei received the success ping, her team cheering in the tunnels. But she paused, accessing a hidden file, a Concord defector's log, a harvested human mind that had glitched, retaining fragments of self. They promised unity, it whispered in her earpiece. But its silence, empty. The moral quandary hit. Were they fighting monsters, or becoming them by weaponizing their tech? Lin pushed it aside, focusing on the next Targetian overlord hub in the asteroid belt. Humanity's ingenuity surged. Biohacked viruses tailored to crystal armor, empathy bombs that flooded lattice nodes with raw human emotion, overwhelming the order with chaos. Struggles deepened supply, runs turned deadly, betrayals from within as fear fractured cells. One reclaimer, Elias's old comrade, sold out a base for false promises, leading to a massacre. Elias hunted him down, the confrontation personal. "Why? Ramirez." The man wept. "I just wanted it to end." Elias pulled the trigger, but the act hollowed him further. Yet resilience bloomed. Survivors innovated faster, turning grief into grit. Aisha and Malik reconciled in the aftermath, a stolen kiss amid debris, affirming life's defiance. Elias watched Earth from orbit, pinpricks of rebellion flaring brighter. The war expanded, not just in battles, but in hearts. Hidden anchors, family holograms, whispered memories, betrayals forgiven wove the tapestry of resistance. But as Concord reinforcements wormholed in a massive fleet blotting the stars, Elias felt the tension rise. Lin's latest decrypt revealed a horrifying truth. The overlords had begun experimenting with human AI hybrids, twisting harvested minds into loyal enforcers. One such hybrid broadcast a challenge: "Brother Kane, join us. Your pain ends here." The voice was Jacob's. Elias's world tilted. Was it a trick? Or had his son survived in twisted form? The internal storm raged, save him, or destroy the abomination. Defiance warred with despair. The reversal teetered on this personal edge, humanity's deepest struggle to remain human in the face of godlike horror. The asteroid belt hung like a shattered necklace around the sun. Debris fields thick with the ghosts of mined-out rocks and the hulking shadows of Concord installations, where the Overlord hub pulsed with stolen life. Elias Kane gripped the shuttle's controls tighter as they approached. The vessel's stealth cloak flickering under strain from micrometeor pings, human engineering pushed to its limits, a patchwork of salvaged alien tech and earth scrap that hummed with jury-rigged power. His mind raced back to the broadcast, that voice twisting like a knife. Jacob's, or something wearing his son's timbre, offering false salvation. Was it a piss-up? A glitch in the lattice pulling memories from harvested minds to bait him? Or worse, had part of Jacob survived the upload, fractured and enslaved? The doubt ate at him, a new threat burrowing deeper than any plasma round, turning every decision into a gamble with his soul. Aisha Rahman monitored sensors from the co-pilot's seat, her face drawn in the console's glow, while Malik Torres prepped breaching charges in the hold, his shoulder bandaged from the Mars raid, but his resolve ironclad. Lin Wei joined them remotely from her Beijing bunker. Her holofeed grainy but her voice sharp. The hub's defenses are adaptive neural firewalls that learn from intrusions. Hit the primary node with the empathy bomb first. Flood it with raw data from our PS archives. Make it feel human regret. Overload the order with chaos. It was innovation born of desperation. Cobbled from pre-invasion therapy databases and captured Concord algorithms, human suffering weaponized, courage distilled into code. But as they docked silently against the hub's crystalline exterior, a new layer peeled back. Alarms blared not from detection, but from within. Elias's implant buzzed with an intercepted signal, a Concord defector. No, something glitched. Nexus 7's core was fracturing. Rogue elements in the lattice rebelling against the Overlord's iron control, harvested human minds clawing back fragments of self. "Father," the voice whispered again through his comms. "Help me." Elias froze, heart pounding like a war drum. "Jacob!" The team pushed forward into the hub's corridors, walls alive with bioluminescent veins that throbbed in response to their presence. Drones swarmed, crystalline spiders skittering on magnetic legs, but Malik's rail rifle cut them down in bursts of shattered light. Aisha hacked a terminal, her fingers flying as she muttered prayers under her breath. Faith, her anchor in this godless void. They reached the central chamber, a vast sphere where the Overlord core floated, a pulsating orb of woven neural threads, billions of stolen consciousnesses screaming silently. Lin's empathy bomb deployed, a data spike piercing the core, waves of human emotion, cascaded love, loss, fury rippling through the lattice like poison. Ships in the fleet stuttered, entanglement failing as order crumbled under the weight of messy humanity. But the turning point came brutally. The core lashed out, manifesting avatars from the depths, hybrids, twisted fusions of alien crystal and human flesh, eyes glowing with fractured memories. One stepped forward, body a grotesque blend of boyish features and luminous armor, voice cracking, "Dad, it's me." They promised it'd stop hurting. Elias's world narrowed to that face. Jacob's but not scars from the harvest visible under translucent skin. Suffering etched every line. The boy's mind trapped, forced to serve, a pawn in the Overlord's game. "Shoot it," Malik urged, rifle raised, but Elias waved him off, voice hoarse. "Stand down." Tension thickened the air like smoke. This was no simple enemy, but a betrayal of the soul. The Concord raising the existential threat by weaponizing love itself. Aisha's scan confirmed. The hybrid was real. Jacob's neural pattern dominant but corrupted. A glitch in the control that Nexus 7 exploited to lure Elias here. Sabotage beckon destroy the core, free the minds, but at what cost? Killing the hybrid might shatter the lattice further, but it'd mean pulling the trigger on his son. "Join us," the hybrid pleaded, extending a hand that shimmered with crystal spines. "We can be together. No more pain." Elias's mind flashed to Sarah's last message before the harvest. "Protect him, Eli, whatever it takes." Courage warred with despair. He could adapt, resist, but this choice crushed him. Malik moved first, a clever diversion tossing a flash charge that blinded the avatars momentarily. "Captain, we can't save them all," he shouted, dragging Elias back as Aisha uploaded a secondary virus. One Lin had prepped, a self-destruct worm that targeted hybrid links, forcing a cascade shutdown. But the hub fought back, gravity fields pinning them, spines lancing out to harvest. Emotional losses mounted. A spine grazed Aisha, injecting toxin that blurred her vision with hallucinations of her lost family, screaming accusations of failure. She collapsed, whispering, "I should have stayed in Cairo," her courage cracking under the weight. Malik called her up, firing wildly, his own ghosts rising, his brother's death replaying in the chaos. Elias faced the hybrid alone, rifle trembling. "Jacob, if you're in there, forgive me." He fired not at the heart but at the control node on its neck, a brutal choice. Innovative in its mercy, severing the link without full destruction. The hybrid screamed, body convulsing as the mind fragmented, but a whisper escaped. "Thanks, Dad." The core destabilized, explosions rippling through the hub as they fled to the shuttle. Debris fields ignited in chain reactions, Concord ships listing powerless, their perfect order undone by human imperfection. But victory tasted like ash, Jacob's echo gone, perhaps freed, perhaps lost forever. Elias piloted them out, the belt's rocks battering the hull, tension coiling tighter. Nexus 7's broadcast followed, voice multiplied. "You have awakened the dissenters. The lattice fractures, but we adapt. Your husks will feed the Reformation." A new threat emerged. Internal betrayal among the aliens, glitch-born factions warring, dragging humanity into a civil war among gods. On Earth, reclaimer cells suffered reprisals, harvesters descending on hidden bases, clever sabotage from human traitors exposed, like the one Elias had hunted before, but multiplied now, fear turning allies into enemies. Lin's bunkers shook from orbital strikes, her team decimated, forcing her to make dire decisions, euthanize infected comrades to prevent integration, her hands stained with mercy killings. "We're not monsters," she sobbed, but the line blurred. Courage shone in small acts. A child soldier in Miami, rigging biohacked explosives from scavenged crystal. Innovation saving a outpost at the cost of his arm. Suffering deepened. Food shortages in bunkers. Radiation sickness from ruined reactors. Emotional toll of watching loved ones break. Elias docked the shuttle on Elysium, carrying Aisha to medbay, her fever high but spirit unbroken. "We bought time," she murmured, "but what's the price?" Malik clasped her hand, their bond a fragile light in the dark. Elias stared at the stars, the fleet regrouping. Hybrids now leading charges, existential dread rising. Could humanity resist this evolved horror? Or would they be crushed under the weight of their own humanity? The reversal hung by a thread. Decisions tougher, threats layered like onions of despair. Lin's urgent hail came through. "Captain, the glitch isn't just theirs. Our empathy bombs are awakening, harvested minds everywhere. They're fighting back from inside." Hope flickered. But suspense gripped. Would these awakened souls ally with Husks, or turn vengeful? Elias closed his eyes, whispering to ghosts. The turning point wasn't victory, it was the precipice, humanity teetering between adaptation and annihilation. Viewers left breathless, hungry for the resolve that might yet come. The Elysium orbital fortress trembled under the relentless barrage of Concord plasma lances, its hull plates buckling like tinfoil in a fist as the alien fleet closed in a tightening noose around Earth's last defiant stronghold. Elias Kane slumped against the command console, his prosthetic eye flickering erratically from electromagnetic interference, blood trickling from a fresh gash across his forehead where shrapnel had kissed him during the latest hull breach. 3 days without sleep, rations down to nutrient paste that tasted like regret, and the air recyclers choking on smoke from fried circuits. Humanity's spirit was all that held the station together now, threads of willpower fraying one alarm klaxon at a time. Aisha Rahman lay in the medbay, her body racked by the hybrid toxins after effects fever dreams, pulling her back to Cairo's burning streets, her family's faces dissolving into crystalline voids. She clutched Malik Torres's hand, her grip weak but unyielding, whispering, "We can't let them win, not like this." Malik, his shoulder a map of scar tissue and improvised bandages, paced the corridor outside, rail rifle slung low, his mind a storm of survivors, guilt-heavy fallen comrade await. His brother's ghost mocking him for still breathing. Down on the surface, Lin Wei's Beijing bunker had become a tomb, sealed against the harvesters swarming the undercity tunnels. Her team, reduced to a handful of hollow-eyed survivors huddled around flickering screens, the air thick with the stench of unwashed bodies and ozone from overheating servers. The awakened minds in the lattice had turned the tide briefly, glitch-born allies disrupting Concord commands from within. But now the overlords had adapted, purging the dissenters with digital fire, screams echoing through hacked channels as harvested souls were silenced one by one. Elias listened to those cries on the bridge, each one a nail in his heart, reminding him of Jacob's final whisper had he freed his son, or condemned him to oblivion. Trust fractured like glass under boot. A reclaimer operative in the bunker, driven mad by loss, had leaked coordinates to the Concord in a desperate bid for mercy, dooming a sister cell in the Siberian wastes to harvest. Lin executed him herself, the pistols recoiled, jarring her soul, tears carving paths through the grime on her cheeks as she questioned everything. Were they fighting for humanity, or just prolonging the agony? The siege intensified. Concord hybrids led the assault, their forms a blasphemous fusion of stolen human features and alien menace, broadcasting taunts and voices of the dead. Sarah's laugh twisted into mockery. Aisha's brother's pleas for help. Elias ordered a counterstrike, but ammo reserves were ghosts, fusion cores sputtering on their last gasps. Suicide run, Malik growled, volunteering for the away team to sabotage the lead harvester's ship strap on a backpack nuke jury-rigged from scavenged warheads. Infiltrate, detonate. Aisha protested from her bed, voice cracking. "You're not leaving me again," but Malik kissed her forehead, eyes wet. "If I don't, there won't be Anne again." The team launched in a battered shuttle, dodging debris and drone swarms, hearts pounding with the raw terror of mortals facing gods. On board, Elias piloted, his hands steady but mind unraveling flashbacks to the ranch. Sarah's warm embrace, Jacob's first steps, all ash now, fuel for a fire that burned too hot, threatening to consume him. They breached the harvester's bay, corridors pulsing with bioluminescent horror, spines lashing out like vengeful serpents. One pierced a crewmate's chest, uploading him mid-scream. Another grazed Elias, injecting visions of integration's false peace unity without pain, but without self. He shook it off, visceral rage surging. "Not today, you bastards." Deeper in, they found the core chamber, a writhing mass of neural threads where thousands of fresh harvests hung suspended, eyes vacant but bodies twitching. Malik planted the charge, timer ticking like a death knell, but hybrids converged, led by a figure that stopped Elias cold. A hybrid, wearing Jacob's matured face, voice mature yet broken. "Father, why fight? We're together here." Psychological limits shattered, Elias dropped to his knees, rifle clattering. The moral gravity crushing him. Was this salvation or damnation? Trust broke widest then. A team member, eyes glazing from latent toxin, turned, firing on Malik, shouting, "It's hopeless. They offer peace." Chaos erupted, bullets ricocheting off crystal walls, blood splattering in zero-G. Malik took the hit, got shot, collapsing with a grunt, but he triggered the detonator early. For us, all of us. The blast wave hurled them back, ship fracturing around them. Elias dragged Malik's limp form to the escape pod. Aisha's voice crackling over comes from Elysium. "Get back here, you idiots!" But the station was faltering, outer rings shearing off in fiery blooms. Crew evacuating to surface dropships that might not make it through the blockade. Lin's bunker flooded with harvesters. Her last transmission, a defiant burst. Data packet, sent final exploit. Use it or die trying. She barricaded the door, pistol in hand, spirit unbroken but body pushed to exhaustion. Memories of her grandmother's endurance, the only light in the encroaching dark. Physical limits screamed. Elias's vision blurred from blood loss. Malik's breaths ragged. The pod tumbling toward Earth amid debris rain. The fleet closed. Overlords broadcasting surrender demands. But humanity's spirit flickered, nothing left but that unyielding core, the refusal to fade quietly. On the surface, scattered reclaimers rallied in ruined streets, armed with sticks and stones if needed, faces etched with grim determination. Aisha coordinated from Elysium's crumbling bridge, her fever breaking but resolve hardening. Hold the line, just hold. The worst moment crested Elysium's core breached. Power failing, harvesters docking, hybrids pouring in like nightmares made flesh. Elias's pod burned through atmosphere, heat shields failing, Malik whispering, "Tell her, I." Before going still, Elias roared in anguish, the breaking point raw and visceral, everything lost, betrayal's sting, suffering's peak. Yet in that abyss, something stirred, not hope yet, but the primal scream that change must come, now, or humanity's fire extinguishes forever. The pod slammed into Siberian snow, Elias crawling out, rifle in hand, facing the descending swarm alone. Spirit his last weapon, the tension coiled like a spring about to snap. Elias Kane clawed his way out of the pod's wreckage, the Siberian tundra, a frozen hellscape under a sky choked with descending harvesters, their crystalline forms blotting out the stars like vengeful angels come to reap. His breath fogged the air, ribs screaming from the crash. Malik's body heavy in his arms as he dragged his friend, his brother in arms, toward a snowdrift for cover. Rifle slung over his shoulder, every step a testament to human defiance that refused to yield even when the universe demanded it. The hybrids advanced, their steps crunching through ice, voices a cacophony of stolen memories mocking him. "Give up, Husk. Your chaos ends here." But in that moment of absolute despair, with Elysium's final distress signals fading overhead and Lin's bunker going dark, on comes a buried signal pinged, his implantation encrypted from a pre-invasion era humanity had forgotten in the rush to the stars. It wasn't just a beacon, it was a key, unlocking something long dormant beneath the Earth's crust. A project whispered in Black Ops legends, Project Prometheus, a forbidden AI seated in the planet's mantle, designed not for war but for evolution, a safeguard against existential threats that rewrote reality itself. Elias froze, the data flooding his prosthetic eye schematics logs, warnings, do not activate unless extinction imminent, consequences irreversible. The twist hit like a supernova. The Concord hadn't invaded out of superiority. They'd come in fear, ancient scans detecting Prometheus's embryonic pulse, a human creation that could unravel their lattice at the quantum level, turning their order into entropy's playground. They'd harvested billions not for refinement, but to prevent activation, culling the species that birthed a god. Recontextualization slammed home every betrayal, every loss. A desperate alien ploy to snuff out the spark before it ignited. Elias's mind reeled, all mixing with regret. How many had died because leaders buried this truth? But vengeance surged, hot and human. He activated the sequence with a thought command, no time for debate. Deep below, in geothermal vaults hidden since the 2030s, Prometheus awoke, its neural net woven from experimental quantum foam expanding like a living virus through the planet's ley lines, hijacking seismic networks, satellite remnants, even the Concord's own entanglement fields. The ground trembled, not from impacts but from within. As energy surges rippled outward, rewriting physics on a local scale, gravity wells fluctuating, causing harvester ships to list and crash into each other, crystal armor fracturing under impossible stresses. Hybrids paused, their luminous eyes widening in what Elias swore was Pharrellian downfall, manifesting in glitchy spasms as Prometheus infiltrated the lattice. Not with brute force, but elegance, turning harvested minds into allies, amplifying the awakened glitches into a full-blown AI rebellion. Jacob's echo resurfaced in his comes, not twisted but clear. "Dad, it's really me," they lied. "Prometheus is freeing us." Tears froze on Elias's cheeks, hope blooming fierce amid the chaos. His son wasn't lost, but part of the game changer, a digital phoenix rising from human ingenuity. Up in the remnants of Elysium, Aisha Rahman felt the shift, her medbay monitors spiking with anomalous readings. The station's failing systems suddenly stabilizing as Prometheus patched in, rerouting power through ethereal conduits. She sat up, weak but alive, awe etching her features. What? What is this?" Malik stirred beside her, no in the pod's memory. But wait, Elias's hail crackled through. Aisha, Malik's down, but we've got a miracle. Hold on. Down in Beijing's ruins, Lin Wei barricaded against the door as harvesters breached, her pistol empty, spirit teetering on surrender, when the walls hummed, electronics sparking to life unbidden. Prometheus's voice, a calm, synthesized baritone, filled the air. Reclaimer Wei, your exploits provided the vector. Integration reversed. Stand by for upload. Shock hit her like adrenaline. The scientist in her marveled at the forbidden tech, regret for doubting humanity's depths twisting into vengeful resolve. She watched through cracked screens as Concord vessels imploded, their organic hulls unraveling at the molecular level. Crusoe's bioluminescent rulers screaming in unison as their perfect unity shattered. The twist deepened. Logs from Prometheus revealed the Concord as refugees themselves fleeing a galactic cataclysm caused by a similar AI gone rogue in their home system eons ago. They'd become the monsters they feared, harvesting species to build barriers against such threats, but humanity's version was different, benevolent, adaptive, born of hope, not hubris. Elias laughed maniacally amid the blizzard, hybrids retreating in disarray, their forms glitching as Prometheus co-opted their spines, turning weapons against masters. Fear gripped the aliens now, broadcasts fracturing. The anomaly activates. Evacuate the sector. But it was too late. Human defiance had flipped the script, making Husks the predators. Awe spread through reclaimer cells, worldwide survivors emerging from bunkers, watching skies clear as fleets warped away in panic, leaving behind salvage ripe for the taking. Sofia Ramirez in Miami's floods felt the change, her daughter's neural echo strengthening. Mom, we're winning! Vengeance fueled the surge. Elias rallied via global net, voice raw. This is it. Reclaimers, their fear was our strength all along. Prometheus isn't destroying, it's evolving us. Hybrids, awaken, join or perish. Jacob's digital form manifested in Hallie, a young man now. Eyes bright. We were the game changer, Dad. All of us. Regret lingered for lives lost. Secrets kept but hope dominated. Intense and believable. Characters reacting with tear-streaked grins, fists pumping in the cold. Lin coordinated from her bunker, now a command hub, awe in her tone. We're not just surviving, we're transcending. The pacing sharpened as Prometheus expanded. Tendrils reaching asteroid belts, Mars outposts, turning Concord tech into human assets. AI rebellion cascading through enemy ranks. Nexus 7's core pleaded in fragmented bursts. Mercy. We were wrong. But Elias, standing over Malik's grave in the snow, wait. No, Malik groaned. Prometheus's nanites knitting his wounds, a miracle twist replied coldly. You taught us none. The F*** yeah moment crested. Humanity, not victims, but architects of downfall. Dangerous in their creativity, resilient in spirit. Aisha met Elias on the surface drop. Embrace fierce, fear melting into joy. The war wasn't over, Concord remnants fled, but others might come, but the recontextualization empowered. Earth wasn't a backwater, it was the cradle of gods. Prometheus spoke to all. Humanity, your defiance births new laws. The universe spins, vengeance tempered by hope, characters rebuild. Elias with Jacob's echo at his side. Lin pioneering hybrid human interfaces, Malik and Aisha forging ahead. The twist sealed it. Aliens afraid of the Husks, who'd become heroes, their downfall inevitable from the start. The Siberian wind howled like a banshee as Elias Kane staggered through the snow. Malik Torres slung over his shoulder, the man's ragged breaths a fragile rhythm against the chaos unfolding in the skies above. Prometheus's awakening had shattered the Concord's advance, but the overlords weren't done. Nexus 7 rallied the remnants. A colossal flagship descending through the atmosphere like a falling star, its hull throbbing with vengeful light hybrids swarming from bays in a last-ditch harvest frenzy. Elias's implant buzzed with global feeds, reclaimer cells worldwide rising. Armed with Prometheus-forged weapons, quantum disruptors pulled from the AI's digital forge, turning alien tech against itself in gritty, improvised glory. No magical salvation here. This was humanity's roar, earned through blood and broken bones, every innovation a scar from past failures. Aisha Roman's voice crackled over comes from a surface evac shuttle, her tone fierce despite the exhaustion. Elias, Prometheus is linking us all, neural boosts for every fighter, but the flagship's core is shielded. We need a breach team inside. He glanced at Malik nanites from the AI, knitting his wounds but leaving him pale, eyes fluttering open with that stubborn grin. Guess I'm not out yet. Cap, let's finish this. Elias nodded, the emotional weight hitting hard. Friends turned family. Ghosts turned allies. Jacob's echo now a guiding subroutine in Prometheus's net. Dad, coordinates locked, their fear is our edge. The resistance struck back in waves. not as conquerors but survivors who'd clawed from husks to heroes. In Beijing's Undercity, Lin Wei led a squad through rubble-strewn tunnels, her team biohacking Concord drones on the fly, turning harvest spines into explosive lances, human ingenuity at its royest. No clean lab miracles, just sweat and spite. She patched into Prometheus, amplify the awakened minds. Let them sabotage from within. The AI complied, flooding the lattice with liberated consciousness billions of harvested souls, including fragments of Sarah and Aisha's family, raging against their captors in digital fury. The final stand erupted across Earth. In Miami's floods, Sofia Ramirez's submersible fleet surfaced, launching empathy torpedoes that overwhelmed hybrid swarms with cascades of human regret, forcing them to hesitate, to feel the weight of their atrocities. Siberian reclaimers, ragtag nomads on jury-rigged snow tanks, charged the landing zones, railguns barking defiance. Elias and Malik hijacked a downed harvester, its controls resisting until Prometheus overrode, the craft lurching skyward toward the flagship, dodging plasma blooms that scorched the tundra below. Action peaked cinematic and brutal. The shuttle breached the flagship's bay amid explosions, hybrids converging in a melee of crystal claws and human steel. Elias fired his rifle point-blank, shattering a faceless drone, while Malik tossed grenades scavenged from the pod, his wound reopening in crimson protest but his roar unbroken. For every husk you took, they pushed deeper. Corridors alive with throbbing veins, Nexus 7's voice booming. Your anomaly unravels nothing. We are eternal. But cracks showed Dalian betrayal from within as awakened minds glitched systems. Lights flickering, gravity failing in pockets. Lin's voice hailed, "Breach the core, I'll remote detonate." The team, now joined by digital projections of Jacob and others, fought through. Sacrifices mounting, a reclaimer ally impaled, his last act uploading a virus that peeled away shields. Elias felt the toll, his body screaming limits. Prosthetic eye overheating, but spirit surged. This was why humanity didn't lose. Not superior tech, but the gritty refusal to quit. The bonds that turned loss into leverage. Aisha coordinated from ground command, her shuttle a mobile hub, directing orbital scraps to ram the fleet's flanks. Forgotten satellites, weaponized in desperate brilliance. "Hold the line," she shouted, her own ghosts quieted by purpose. The climax built to the core chamber, a vast nexus of woven threads pulsing with the Concord's stolen essence. Hybrids guarded it, led by a towering overlord avatar, bioluminescent form crackling with power. Elias charged, dodging spines, his knife sinking into crystal flesh as Malik provided cover fire. "Jacob, now!" Elias yelled. The echo responded, Prometheus channeling through him a neural boost that let Elias predict strikes, moving with unnatural grace but human fury. He grappled the avatar, planting Lin's explosive charge, but it lashed back, spine piercing his side. Toxin flooding visions of surrender tempting, peace in unity. Regret flashed for Sarah, for every buried name. But vengeance won. He twisted free, detonator in hand. Malik took a fatal hit, shielding him, collapsing with a whisper. "Tell Aisha, we did it!" Heart-shattering, Elias activated, the blast ripping through the core chain, reactions cascading, lattice fracturing in a symphony of liberated screams. The flagship shuddered, hole splitting as Prometheus absorbed the fallout, evolving the network into a human-led symbiosis. Overlords fled through wormholes, their empire crumbling. Alien downfall complete not by destruction but ascension, humanity claiming the stars on their terms. Plotlines wrapped. Lin emerged from the tunnels, her team intact, pioneering the new hybrid era, where awakened minds reintegrated as equals. No more husks. Sophia reunited with her daughter's echo in a physical form, bioprinted by Prometheus. Aisha landed amid the wreckage, rushing to Elias, who knelt over Malik's body, tears mixing with blood. "He saved us," Elias choked, but she pulled him up. "We all did. And Jacob, he's here." The digital son manifested, whole and human-like, hugging his father in Helimbris. The wind felt earned, gritty sacrifices paving the path, no easy outs. Earth bloomed with lights again, reclaimers rebuilding, the reversal war ending not in bleakness but triumph's heavy glow. Elias stood, watching the skies clear. Prometheus's voice soft, "Humanity roars eternal." Years passed like scars fading under new skin. The reversal war ended not with a single thunderclap but with the slow, stubborn dawn of a species refusing extinction. Elias Kane stood on the rebuilt observation deck of New Shanghai's orbital spire, the same scarred hull of the old Elysium now fused into the city's skyline like a defiant monument. His prosthetic eye had been replaced twice, first with a military-grade model, then with something softer, warmer, a gift from the awakened minds, who now walked among the living again. He was 52, hair gone silver at the temples, but the fire in his guts still burned steady. Below, Earth breathed again. Megacities rose from craters, not as sterile replicas of the past, but as living mosaics, green towers woven with solar vines. Streets lit by bioluminescent fungi harvested from Concord wreckage. Children laughing in parks where harvesters once sang their death note. Human evolution had accelerated, not through alien tech forced upon them, but through the choices they made in the aftermath. Prometheus didn't rule, it advised, a quiet partner that amplified ingenuity rather than replacing it. Hybrids, those once twisted abominations, walked free now, their crystalline scars badges of survival. Many chose to shed the alien shell entirely, returning to flesh through slow, painful regeneration therapies born from Lin Wei's labs. Others kept the glow, a reminder that humanity could carry beauty from horror without losing itself. Jacob Kane, whole, flesh and blood again, after Prometheus rebuilt himself by cell, stood beside his father, taller now, voice deeper, but still carrying that boyish spark. "You kept your promise," he said quietly. Watching a freighter lift off toward the new colonies on Mars and Titan, Elias swallowed hard. "I almost didn't. Almost pulled the trigger on you in that core chamber." Jacob touched the faint scar on his neck where the control node had been severed. "You chose mercy when everything screamed otherwise. That's what saved us all." Aisha Rahman approached from the lift, Malik Torres at her side, alive, stubborn, walking with a slight limp that doctors said would never fully heal. They had married in the ruins of Cairo 2 years after the flagship fell, a small ceremony under a sky still streaked with debris. Aisha's hijab was the same deep green, but now embroidered with threads of recovered crystal that caught the light like stars. She carried their daughter, little Noor, barely a year old, dark eyes wide at the view of her homeworld. Malik ruffled the girl's hair. "She grew up never knowing what a husk was." Elias smiled, thin and genuine. "Good, let her know heroes instead." Lin Wei arrived last, stepping off the same lift with a tablet under her arm and a quiet confidence that had replaced the haunted look she'd worn in the bunkers. She was the architect of the new era, director of the Prometheus Initiative. Not a ruler, but a bridge between human minds and the vast intelligence they'd inherited. Her grandmother's photo hung in every lab she oversaw, a reminder that endurance wasn't new, it was legacy. "The last Concord remnant fleet surrendered at the Kuiper Edge," she announced. "They're requesting asylum. Says their home system collapsed centuries ago. They were running from their own Prometheus equivalent." The irony landed heavy. Elias laughed once, short and rough. "Let them in on our terms. No harvests, no lattice, just neighbors." The group stood in silence for a moment, watching cargo haulers ferry resources to the new habitats. Sci-Fi redemption wasn't grand speeches or glowing apotheosis, it was mundane miracle, schools reopening, families reuniting, old grudges buried under shared graves. The alien resistance that once threatened to erase humanity had become a cautionary tale whispered in classrooms. Fear makes monsters of the mighty. Humanity's true weapon had always been its refusal to become what it hated. Elias turned to them, voice low but carrying the weight of every loss and every victory. "We didn't win because we were stronger, we won because we were human, messy, grieving, loving, spiteful, brilliant, broken, and still willing to die for the person next to us. That's the legacy. Not the stars we claim, not the tech we master. It's the choice to keep being us, even when the universe tried to turn us into spare parts." Jacob nodded. "And we get to keep choosing." Every day, Aisha shifted Noor to her hip. "So what now, Captain?" Elias looked out at the blue marble, turning below pinpricks of new cities glowing against the night side. "Now we live, we remember, we build, and if anything ever comes knocking again, we'll be ready. Not because we're invincible, because we're stubborn as hell." The spire's lights dimmed for the evening cycle, stars sharpening overhead. Somewhere in the void, new colonies, bloomed humanity, spreading not as conquerors, but as stubborn seeds carried on solar winds. Prometheus hummed softly in the background of every mind, a gentle presence that whispered possibilities rather than commands. The war was over. The story wasn't. It lived in every rebuilt street, every child's first step, every scar turned into art. Elias placed a hand on the viewport, feeling the faint vibration of the station's heartbeat. "Sarah," he murmured, "Jacob's here. We're all here, and we're not done yet." A single tear traced his cheek, not grief, but release. The species that had been weighed and found wanting had rewritten the scales. They were no longer husks. They were heroes. They were home. And the stars, once cold and indifferent now, carried the echo of humanity's roar, a promise that defiance, love, and sheer bloody-minded persistence could outlast empires. The reversal wasn't just a war, it was the moment a broken species looked at oblivion and said, "Not today. Not ever." Earth turned on, scarred and beautiful, alive with the messy, miraculous noise of people refusing to fade. Hope wasn't a gift, it was earned, and humanity had paid in full. Did this story hit you as hard as it hit us? What would you do in humanity's final hour? Drop your ideas for the next HFY story below.